let's know that the government of the USA is consisted of three branches, which are legislative branch, executive branch, and the judicial branch. First, let's get to know them and get some common facts about themselves, then we'll go deeper and deeper into them. Now, as I already mentioned, legislative is vested in the Congress, the executive branch is vested in the President, and the judicial branch is vested in the federal courts. First, let's start with the executive branch because that's my favorite one. That's where the President is. Now, the head of the executive branch is the President. And what kind of powers does the President have? Good question. Let's get to know. The President's powers. Here you can see that I've put the photo of my two lovely presidents. Those are George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They are icons according to me. And the President has the executive branch that has unique powers, including now I'm going to be a little faster because we're going to run out of time if I mention them very slowly and clearly. So it has the executive orders, vetoes, appointing federal judges, appointing heads of admissions, appointing heads of federal agencies, which are called departments. We're going to go deep into them because they are the American version of our Armenian ministries. So he appoints the heads of cabinet. What is the cabinet? Let's go and see. As I already said, the cabinet is like the Armenian version of ministries, but though they are called departments in the USA, and in Armenian it is a minister, but in America it's called the head of department, secretary. All of the heads of departments are called secretaries except the one which is called Attorney General, that's the head of Justice Department. And see, these are those people, the heads of departments, discussing something very important. Let's continue. I forgot to mention that there are 15 departments in the USA cabinet and the presidential line. Now, I'm sure you know the visit of Nancy Pelosi to Armenia. Do you know about that? Are you familiar with that? Yeah, that's great because they were talking about Nancy Pelosi being the second person after the American president. What was it about? It was actually about the presidential line because in case, for example, the president retires or isn't capacitated to rule anymore or dies, something happens. In case of emergency, the first in line comes the vice president, second speaker of the House of Representatives. Remember, Nancy Pelosi was the head of the House of Department, okay, House of Representatives. Then we have Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, and Secretary of Defense. Let's continue. This was the presidential line. Please remember everything I'm saying because in the end we're going to have a quiz. It's going to be a very interesting, interactive, fun activity. Next one is where's the executive branch's official office? Their official office, the White House. I'm sure you know about it. It's located in Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C. And checks and balances system. What is this system? So to ensure that no branch has a major power, major influence on other powers, they decided to create this checks and balances system. Let me bring some examples and you'll know what I'm about. For example, the president, as the nation's representative, has the power to sign treaties, but those treaties will only be ratified by the 2/3 of the Senate. Checks and balances. Or, when Congress enacts bills, the president either signs the legislation into power, into law, or he rejects it through a veto. Checks and balances, see? Or, whereas the cabinet members are nominated by the president, they have to be approved by the simple majority of the Senate. Again, checks and balances. Let's continue. This was the executive branch. Moving on to the next branch, which is the legislative branch. This is the seal of the Congress because the legislative branch is vested in the Congress. And it comprises of two chambers. The first one is the Senate, and the second one, the House of Representatives that I mentioned before. Remember that, not Nancy Pelosi. This is the Senate, 100 senators, 2 representatives of each state. And look where the senators go and discuss their big deals. And it has this exclusive power for presidential appointments and treaties, and tries a government official which was impeached by the House of Representatives. That's about impeachment. And let's continue. The House of Representatives. Here, the House of Representatives is a lot bigger than the Senate because it has 435 representatives. They're elected by the nation. And let's continue. And the last one, the judicial branch. Here's the seal of the judicial branch, and it consists of federal courts. The head of them is the Supreme Court. Have you heard about the Supreme Court? Because they got more popular during those latest events. The Supreme Court, the justices of it. Yeah, okay. Now, this is the Supreme Court, which is actually really similar to our Garni temple. Yeah, at first you can even confuse the judicial court with our Garni, but then how can you confuse Garni with another thing, right? Yeah. And the justices. Here they are. Remember their faces, we're going to talk about them later. And the justices are nominated by the president, subsequently approved by the Senate. And what's more important thing is that they serve until they die. Their term is endless. There is no limit to their term. Or until they retire or are impeached. Let's continue. The federal courts. Take a look at the system if you're interested. I'll wait for 5 seconds. Yeah, I see this interest in your eyes. Let's continue. And moving on. Now, there is a part where I made let's practice. What are we going to do? Now be more attentive right now because it's going to be interesting. I promise. Let's go. I'm going to tell you about widespread news from the latest news, and you're going to say what are they related to, okay? For example, the first one, my body, my choice. What is it about?
The abortion.
The abortion, okay. Then?
The justice.
Justice, yeah, justice system, sorry.
Some new movement.
Some new movement, yeah. Basically, sorry?
Basically feminism.
Feminism, yeah, I agree with that. You basically said all of the components of that. Let's go. It was a movement because the Supreme Court has ruled there is no constitutional right to abortion in the USA. Now, you remember that there are 3 branches, right? Executive, legislative, and judicial. Which branch does this relate to? Supreme Court.
Judicial.
Judicial or executive?
No, judicial.
Judicial? Are you sure about that? Yes, judicial. Judicial.com. Correct. Feeling like Dora the Explorer. Next one. Now, I'm going to read this announcement and you'll say who does this belong to. It's a governmental official. Today, we remember the atrocities faced by the Armenian people in Metz-Yaver, the Armenian genocide. If elected, I pledge to support the resolution recognizing the Armenian genocide and will make universal human rights a top priority. Who does this belong to? Take a guess. Joe Biden? Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden? No. Joe Biden versus Nancy Pelosi. Who's not Nancy Pelosi? It's not Nancy Pelosi. Joe Biden, okay. Joe Biden wins. Let's see who it is. Yes, Joe Biden, great. More points to you. And which branch does he belong to? We have executive, legislative, or judicial. Executive or judicial? Executive, yeah. Okay, yeah, right, executive branch, great. My applause to you. And the last one, Nancy Pelosi's visit to Armenia that we already talked about. Which branch does she relate to? Nancy Pelosi. Who was she? The last one. What's left there? The second one? See, the first one is legislative, second one is executive, third is judicial. Legislative. She is the head of House of Representatives.
Yeah. Actually, she's connected to executive, but like in another
Yeah.
So
in another
legislative.
Okay, legislative, right? Because she's from the Congress.
Yeah.
Legislative, great. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And